All right, welcome back, everybody. So we've got a little game here. We've got a little level. All right, so welcome back, everybody. We've got now we've got a little maze. I've tweaked the maze a little bit for a different one on a different level here, and we've got a camera that's following the player around. And the idea is that we build an interesting maze. We have a starting position, and we're going to try and solve this maze and get to some kind of goal. And I was thinking maybe I'd put my goal right here. And for that, we need to make a goal. I also noticed as I'm playing around here that sometimes my movement is not quite as smooth as I'd like, and sometimes I'm moving off at different angles. Um, and really, it happens when we let go of certain keys. There's a little quick tweak you may want to put into your movement code, so let's fix that first. Essentially, because we have kind of a grid in our maze, we can either move up, down, or left or right. But at the moment, I've chained all of these together, so you can only move in one particular direction. But if I let go of one key and pressing another key, then we can actually have the Z and the X moving at the same time. So I'm going to make a quick fix here because I only want to be able to move up or down or left or right, and they're not going to be dependent on each other. So I could, if I wanted to, move at an angle, but I don't have to. So for that, I'm just going to fix this and say, if I'm pressing up, move up. If I'm pressing down, move down. Else, my velocity dot z is going to be equal to 0. So if I'm not pressing up or down, then that happens here. And then if I'm pressing left, move left. Else, if I'm pressing right, move right. Else, I only want to stop the left and right movement. So I'm going to get rid of that Z there. And I think you'll find if we tweak our code for that, that's going to give us a much smoother, much nicer, and not get stuck on some angles sometimes. But I can move at an angle if I wish to, move through there, but I don't have to. So your movement's going to be a little bit better. So once you fix that, let's go back to our goal here because I've kind of designed a level at the moment. So I'm planning on going here, although I probably want to make these levels too high so I can't just jump over them. It's pretty easy to solve that way. But let's get a goal in place and see how that's going to work. So for this, I'm going to make a new scene because I'm going to want to reuse this goal on multiple different levels. At the moment, I only have one, but I'm hoping to actually make a game where you can kind of get more and more challenging levels as you go through. So I'm going to add to my game a new scene here, or add a new scene. And for this, the goal is something that I want to hit, but I don't want to stand on it, and I want to be able to see it. But it's not really a physics object like we've created so far. It's not a player that I'm going to move around. It's not a rigid body that's just going to be kind of in the way, and it's not a wall block. It's something completely unique here. And we have a nice node that has been created for us in for just this kind of circumstances. So I'm going to hit other node, and the node is called an area 3D. And if I click on my start searching for area, notice it says a region of 3D space that detects other collision objects entering or exiting it. So it's very much used for kind of a checkpoint or a collectible, or in this case, a goal. It's a region of space that just lets me know when something has hit it. But it does not have its own physics form. It doesn't, you can't stand on it or bump into it. So an area 3D is what I want to create for my goal. And I'm going to call that goal right away. But just like my other objects, like the player and the rigid bodies, the blocks and things like that, it needs the same kind of things associated with it. I need to be able to see it, and I need to know where its edges are. So it gives me the warning of no collision shape, but as usual, I like to add a mesh first. So I'm going to create a mesh instance like I've done before. In this case, I make a new mesh. Let's make something a little different, something that we can see. I've already got blocks and spheres, so let's make a prism. Later on, I'm going to show you how you can add any kind of mesh to this that you like. But let's make a little prism here, something that's just a little more identifiable. And so now I know the size of it. I'm going to make a collision shape 3D. The collision shape I could make, notice you don't get a pyramid there. We can make any shape I want, but it doesn't have to be that specific. It's just something I'm going to get close to and hit. So I'm actually just going to make a box shape around it. If I hit that tiny little edge here, that's just as good as if I hit the actual thing. So, yeah, there's going to be my goal. I'm going to add one thing to the goal. I want to make it a little more attractive, something that looks like I need to go get this. So I'm going to add a script to my goal, and I'm also going to use that later on. So I'm putting it in here for now. And what I'd like to do is kind of like I did with the rolling of the ball. I want to just spin this around to make it a little more exciting. So I'm going to say rotate. In this case, I'm going to rotate around the y-axis. And let's make that constant rot speed up here. Let's make it equal to, I don't know, let's do just the 5 degrees. But remember, we operate in radians now. So I'm going to say deg to rad, degrees to radians. Let's go 5 degrees. We'll spin around, and I'm going to just rotate at the rot speed. Let's save that scene as goal, and I'm going to just pop it into my level here. So I don't have to keep solving the maze to test things out. I'm actually just going to put my goal, let's instantiate it here. I'm going to put it really close to my player. And there's a hint in your level design is to just let them, there we go, put it up a little closer here. Put it close so you don't have to keep trying to solve it to see if things are going to work. All right, so if I play my level now, you'll see there's the goal spinning around nicely. I like that speed there, that's great. If I jump and hit this, nothing happens because it's just an area, it's detecting whether or not I've hit this, but it's not solid, and I haven't told it to do anything when it detects that hit. So at the moment, it's just a little decoration that's kind of spinning around. So let's make something happen. So when I hit my goal, I want to move to my next level. Now I notice that I don't have a next level, so before I can go there, I need to make that. I could rebuild it from scratch, but to be perfectly honest, the easiest way is if I go save scene as on level 1, I'm just going to save that as level 2. And so now I have a copy on level 2, and in fact, I'm going to name that first node level 2. I have an exact copy. You can see I'm working on level 2 of my level 1, and then I'm ready to go. But so I know that I've actually switched levels, I'm going to get rid of all of those blocks. Just select those and hit delete. I don't need the grid map. You may want to later on also, I'll go, I'm on floor 0. I'm going to go on my grid map. I'm going to hold down shift and just drag to select all of the inside blocks here and just hit delete. And there we go. Now I have a giant empty space that I could build a second level that's a little more complicated. I can make it larger if I want to, but at least now I'll know that I'm on level 2 very clearly when I do that. And I'm going to save that and go back and open up level 1. There we go. So now I have 2 levels that I can switch between. And I need to say when the player hits the goal, I want to move to level 2. Well, I'm going to do this on the goal because that way it's nice and easy. I can easily move the goal between different levels, and it'll always allow me to, it's kind of self-contained. It says when something hits me, then move to that next level. And how do I know when I've been hit? Well, there's two different nodes, two different scenes that are actually interacting here. We've got the player scene and the goal scene interacting. And for programming reasons, scenes like to be self-contained. They don't want to be able to communicate or know what's going on with the other one, unless we as programmers really specify that. So luckily, Godot has set up a system for allowing different nodes to communicate very nicely and has built in some of that communication for us. It's stashed over here. I'm going to get the goal to do some communication. Stashed over here in this tab called Node. So if I bring up Node, you'll see a whole bunch of things. It allows me to tweak some of the options about goal. And the node gives us access to something called signals. And signals are things that are sent out when one node interacts with another node, or in fact, other things happen as well. And you can see a list of all of these signals that are built in to each of the different kinds of nodes. We have an area 2D, that's my goal, but also there is, you can see a collision object, a collision shape there. There's just general nodes, and the node 3D that we are all part of. So each of these is one of the either parent nodes that you don't get to see or nodes that exist as the children here. You can see here the mesh 3D has got its own set of node signals. The collision shape has its own set of signals. And here is the area 3D that we're looking at. And the area 3D lets me know when another area has entered or exited this. As we mentioned when we created this, it's a good thing for knowing when there's collision shapes being either coming into or out of this particular area. Now the player is a physics body. So you will see down here we have a body entered signal. And think of a signal a little bit like, well, think of the object a little bit like a radio station, and it broadcasts out these signals when certain thing happens. So when any body hits this area, a signal gets sent out saying, I've been hit. But just like a radio station, if no one's tuning in, if no one's listening, then they don't know what's happening. They don't know what's going on. So these signals are being sent out all the time, but at the moment, nobody's tuning in. Nobody cares that a body has entered. So what we need to do is set up a connection. We need to set up a listener for this radio station. And if I hover over top, you can see this is emitted when a physics body, when the body is a physics body or a grid map are detected when it gets hit. And then I need to say, who cares? Who's going to do something about it? And it's pretty nice and easy to do this. All we have to do is double click on the signal, and we get to connect. We need to set up a listener, connect a signal to a method or a function or an instruction, if you will. So we need some object that has a script associated with it. And hey, I've got a script associated with myself. So I can, in fact, send a signal to myself saying, I care. I care when a physics body enters into the area. So I'm going to connect it here with that. And a couple things happen. First, you'll notice now that this signal has a little green arrow here, and it's connecting to a method or a function here we've got. And then immediately the script opens up, and we've got a new function, says function on body entered. And at the moment, nothing's happening. And you can see, again, that little green arrow, which basically says, hey, the source is the goal. If I click on that, the signal is a body entered, and the target is the goal. So I'm sending a signal to myself to say, hey, something's happened. Now, I can say, well, when a body enters into the goal, I want to change levels. I want to change to that level 2 that I just made over there. So here is a bit of a weird line of code. It's get tree is my first function. And so you understand where that's coming from, this is what we call the resource tree. This is all of the files that are available. So when I say get tree, that basically allows Godot to go and look at all of the file resources that are in my game so I can grab one of them. Then I want to change scene to file. I want to switch to level 2 scene. And so there's my next function, change scene to file. And I said all these files are available. And if I put the quotation marks, you'll see all of the scene files that are in my game that are available. I could change to the goal, I could change to level 1, level 2, to player, to wall blocks. I could load any file into this as the new scene. And in this case, I want to pick level 2. Notice that the file name is very specific. It's res :/ and then the name of it .tscn. So let Godot kind of fix that for you so you don't make a spelling mistake, but that you need all of this stuff to load the scene as well. So just to review here, we've gone over to where all the signals are set up, and we said when a physics body enters into the area, we're going to send a signal to myself. And here is the instruction that I want you to follow when that signal is heard, when that signal is received. So if we go back to level 1 now and play, let's test it out and see what happens. Oh, and I am getting something very weird happening here, you can see. And this is a great, I was actually going to make it happen in a second, but for some reason, it looks like the levels just keeps restarting and restarting and restarting. Well, here's the reason for that. You may remember when we said the body entered, if I hover over top of that, received when any body enters the area, and that body can be a physics body or a grid map. So if we think about this, this goal here, it's really close to the wall. And I'm going to move it away for a second here, just a little bit further. And it was also spinning, and it was a big cube. So if that hits the wall, then we are also going to trigger that signal. It's not just the player that can hit it, it's any physics body. And if you want to see a little more closely for debugging purposes, how close you can get, under the debug menu, you can see visible collision shapes when you're playing your game. And you can see if that were to actually be close. So it'll actually show us the blue rectangle, the blue cube, and we can make sure. And you can see now it's not, I moved it away from the wall a little bit, so it's not interacting. But if we were a bit closer there, you would have seen that that corner was probably hitting there. Now, it's not. I can go around it. I can go under it because I raised it up a little bit. But if I jump up and I hit this, there you go. I'm on level 2, and you can see that that edge is actually connecting with the wall because level 2 was a copy of level 1. I haven't moved that over yet. So let me pull that goal away from there. Oh, we're on level 2. Works fine now, but let's double check that this works. Now I'm on level 1, and I've got the goal that's close to me. I can jump up, I hit it. Now I'm on level 2, and it's a wide open spot. So at the moment, what I'd recommend is making sure that your collision shapes aren't hitting the grid maps to make sure you don't accidentally trigger that. And later on, we'll have a look at how you can make sure that even if it was hitting, only the player is allowed to trigger that event.